rolling.
All right, another week in the. Here we are, back again.
Yeah. Our what is it? Our
the stars aligned. That's why we're here.
Our gluten-free, non-GMO podcast.
Yeah.
With tasty kale, made with tasty kale.
We're keto friendly.
Keto friendly.
When was the last time we were together? 2 weeks ago? A week ago?
Yeah, because we missed last week.
Yeah, that's all right.
It's just a scheduling nightmare.
Yeah, it almost didn't happen today. I thought I was going to have more IT issues, but I was able to get it all resolved. Had a little personal conflict at the office. That was always fun.
Some strategic fuck yous.
Yeah, it was all. It's always a good time when you can get pissed off when you're there and vent a little anger on people and then leave.
Well, it's funny because I think people, they want to get tough, they don't know how to get tough.
Yeah, and
they do it the wrong way, and it just doesn't work.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the guy, when you're at work, I'm the guy. If you ask me to do something, I'm going to do it for you. If you ask me to do it, I'm going to go do it.
Well, they become Facebook fearless.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you try to do that shit in real life, and then you find out that was a dumb fucking move.
He doesn't take it.
It doesn't work here.
Yeah, this is the real world. So
it doesn't get you anything. It's funny because...
That's all right. We got it resolved, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I said what I had to say and... slammed some stuff and went all Bobby Knight, threw a couple of chairs, turned the desk over. Points were made. No, it got resolved.
And you still have a job.
I still have a job because they need me.
There you go.
And it's only because they need me.
Right. That's funny.
No, it wasn't that bad. It sucks when you have to work stuff like that out on top of the problem that you're already trying to solve. You know.
Well, and it doesn't. I mean, I understand sense of urgency.
Sure.
And
tell me I got to have this done.
And you understand. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
But to go back and emphasize it with a threat only makes me dig in my heels.
Oh, that's when I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'll do everything I can to break it at that point.
Right.
Let me introduce you to the bleach and the shovel that I have in my car. So I'll see your hand and raise you.
But anyway, we got computers fixed and networks connected and all that stuff, and I made it here. So I feel good. I'm glad I'm here.
There you go. It's funny because, so we have this in our daily life and we see it in our home life, but it's even funnier to watch the politicians do this shit.
Oh, yeah.
I laugh my ass off because I'm watching all this stuff and I'm just shaking my head going, wow. So lie, cheat, and steal.
Yeah.
Create fake news. I mean, there's so much fake news. I don't even know where to...
It's been an entertaining week. I don't know where we dive into this thing because it's all over the board.
Yeah.
You've got so much news coming out at one time for many different things.
Yeah.
To recall a story, so last week I had to take my mom to a doctor's appointment. The following day I had to go to the VA over in Tomball to handle a piece of business, or it's more of an inquiry. So because I didn't have anything scheduled, I'm sitting in the waiting room and they got TVs everywhere.
Oh man!
And I told kind of Ken about this. Is the whatever news program they had up, there was a story they were doing that had something to do with social media and I guess people's use of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't even know what prompted it, but whatever the story was about, I know at the end I was like, I just kind of do an eye roll. That's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
So this other veteran guy that was sitting nearby kind of overheard and kind of had a similar reaction to it, which prompted us started talking about, I made this comment about Facebook in general. I was like, Facebook, the thing that I fucking hate about Facebook or just social media in general is that everybody wants to be fucking Paul Revere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I called it.
Nobody's exchanging fucking recipes with their family or pictures anymore. Now we're sharing stories of the fucking city that's on fire.
Yeah.
And I can't wait till tomorrow to share another story about another city that's on fucking fire.
Well, it's amazing. It's funny you mention that because, the groups that I run, you guys are in them, so you see what goes on in them.
Right.
And I've had people cross-pollinate from that and become friends. Well, they don't always, my groups are very laser-focused as to what they kind of, they have a single themed idea that we generally go with, whether it be firearms or politics or tools. I've got those broken down for each one.
Right.
So you've had this cross pollination where these guys become friends from these different groups, and then their political ideals don't end up jiving, and it breaks down into these fights. Because I just had one. It was funny. I had some friends melt down over the Trump's decision to leave the Kurds hanging, basically.
Oh, we were just talking about this at lunch.
Yeah.
This ought to be interesting.
Yeah. So it was fun to kind of watch that. I just, of course, stayed completely out of it. I'm friends with both of these guys outside of the group. So I stayed completely out of it. But it's like, God, can you people not exchange ideas without insulting each other?
Right.
And it doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, I think that's because they don't have an intellectual response. It's more of an emotional response.
Yeah, that's exactly what it broke down to. Is it was all emotional driven responses.
Yeah, it's like being bullied. If I can scare you with my words, maybe you'll see my point.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that's when I can make my best point.
Yeah.
So the one of the things that kind of I thought about was, if you're let's just say that you're a fan of Fox News. I beat up on them only because everybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like a huge Fox News fan, and if you subscribe to everything that they espouse, and I'm not saying all of it's bullshit, but the thing is that if that's your only single source of information, then you're going to take everything that falls out of their fucking mouth
as gospel.
And shame on you for doing that.
And the thing is you don't said person doesn't have a belief. They just choose to not look elsewhere and only follow this one news reporting agency, which, in my opinion, it means you're dumb.
Yeah, you're very limited. You've limited your response.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we live in an instant everything society, so you have an app that tells you where to eat. You have an app to tell you where to take your dry cleaning. You have an app to do all these things, and so when you look at news, you're looking for the same thing. You're looking for that less than 30-second soundbite that validates what you want to believe, not necessarily what's true. So yeah, I see that a lot with a lot of friends. To where they'll try to jump in a conversation, and we start asking them, well, do you know how this started? Do you know who said this?
Yeah.
They have no clue. It's only because I heard such and such say it.
No paper trail.
Yeah, exactly. Even with Trump, you have to. I mean, I think he's less likely to make a mistake because he's under the most scrutiny.
Yeah.
Literally, everybody's looking at everything he's doing.
Yeah.
But when this whole thing comes up with the Turks and the Kurds, I know Sam and I were talking about this at lunch. There's an end game to it.
Yeah.
There's a big end game to it. And I think that he's been pretty successful at these things playing out the way he needs them to play out.
Yeah. And it is just a bad situation. I mean, if we're going to approach that, I mean, what are you going to do? Go fight a NATO ally? They've been a NATO ally since 1952. Mm-hmm. What are your options with these guys?
Right.
So that was kind of the point, and it was funny watching both sides of this go back and forth. Mm-hmm. I really don't have a dog in the hunt one way or the other. That's why I didn't want to get involved in their conversation.
Sure.
So when Ken and I were talking about it at lunch, is I know two guys that came either from the Ranger Bat or special operations, who transitioned from being from wearing military fatigues to now they're in bed journalists. Not like they sit in a fucking typewriter in the Fox. They're contracted by news agencies to go get a story.
They're boots on the ground in the war zone, kind of.
And the thing is they were boots on the ground with a fucking rifle before.
Yeah.
Now they're boots on the ground with a pen and paper, asking questions.
Yeah.
And every place that they've been to before, they're sort of retracing their steps, only at a different capacity. So when they start telling a story that's close to like foreign policy and telling you what's going on over there, I tend to give more credence and value to the shit they're talking about in country than any motherfucker that's never left the fucking continental United States.
So what was their take on the? So what was their take on the?
So now the
situation
based on the surface, they're not pleased with the pullout.
Yeah. So I gotta agree with that. I'm not.
So
I mean, I'm really not.
But there's an interesting reason here for that, though. Yeah.
Because and a lot of their experiences that they brought up, they fought alongside these people. Mm-hmm. So now it turns into this thing of they developed friendships.
Yeah. So are they having a hard time separating themselves from that friendships to what needs to happen?
Well, in their writing, they're not having a hard time separating it.
Yeah.
That's why I give. I give value to what their words were on the topic, because they see both sides. Okay, yeah, I might have shared meals with these guys, in the same fucking.
So it's journalistic integrity for a change. What a weird concept,
right?
But the thing is these guys catch a lot of shit because of what they say about it. Because then you have these intellectuals. There's this most recent blow up with this. The guy's last name is like Michael Dora or something.
Is he an explorer?
Yeah,
is his wife Dora?
Yeah. But this dude took to fucking Twitter and blew up this former special operations medic who's now a journalist.
So what did he jump all in his feed trying to tell him how it was?
No, what he was saying is he said, "I respect people who took the oath and were in the military, yada yada yada, but some guys." Like some of those guys fail to see the bigger picture, and so when I went back to see what this guy's resume was, this guy's an academic. Mm-hmm. He started off in some university in Florida somewhere on whatever kind of bullshit studies, and he migrated into Middle Eastern politics and stuff like that. So that became kind of his specialty. So because he does this and sat on several national security things, he thought he felt validated in saying this.
I just got a picture of a guy in my head that smoked a lot of weed and then made a 3.5 average or something.
If you saw a picture of him, you'd be totally wrong.
It was that mental image I had going while you were telling that story.
Well,
Florida State. It's like, come on. Nobody took you serious.
Right. It's funny because, when you sit there and you think about, even when we talk about stuff like this, I mean, it is our opinion based on what we've seen here and what we think the whole end gamer situation is going to be.
Yeah.
What I think is funny is the intellectuals tend to give themselves, if it was a point system, they'd say that I'm 40 points smarter than you.
Right.
Yeah.
So you should really, my points should outweigh your points. And I've always looked at it this way. I look at it like a sports. From an analogy, I look at it as like sports. If you look at a team, we'll say the Houston Astros, for example.
Okay.
107 game winner, been to the playoffs multiple times. So on paper, statistically, they should win.
Yeah.
But they don't say that. What they do is they just concede the fact that they're better than you.
Right.
But in a real game of baseball, it's all about luck.
It really is.
It's about
there's a lot of chance in there that you're leaving out.
It's about a spinning ball. It's about a swinging bat. And it's about the way it reacts when it hits it. And it can go any direction. It's all timing, luck, all the stuff that goes in it. So
I'm thinking of Men in Black when he's describing the baseball game.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The guy is saying, well, the baseball was made by this, and if so-and-so would have had wine that night, he would have been born a girl, but he wasn't.
Right.
That's interesting.
Well, it's funny because
so many variables.
Yeah, but intellectuals want to take away the human element.
Yeah.
They want to tell you that I saw this on paper. This is statistically, that means that this is going to go this way. And how many times does it ever work?
Well,
never. The human drama, the game changes continually.
You'll never be able to keep up with the butterfly effect. No, there's so many variables in there.
And that's what aggravates me about when an intellectual will try to enter an argument.
Interject himself as my opinion matters.
Exactly.
I'm the smartest in the room.
As the end-all say-all. And I'm like, no. I mean, I look at it this way, okay, but I also know how human beings are. Yeah. I know how things they're going to work out. And it just, Murphy's Law, man. Every time. And so it's funny because, I don't know, I mean, we're so inundated with this shit right now. We're told that everything, you have to listen to everything statistical. And because we are of this collective group of smart folks, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah, right. But we all, I mean, all of us sitting here know how statistics can be manipulated.
Shit, yeah.
We've all been around that long enough to know how that works.
Figures always lie and liars always figure.
And I'm a believer in any given Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
Given Sunday.
Me too.
Yeah.
Statistically, because we had this conversation last week about all statistics. If statistics are going to be the weightiest information that you use, then from an insurance standpoint, I would absolutely say, you know what, statistically, this person and this person need to go to the World Series.
Yeah.
Yeah, the underwriter would
Yeah.
give you that line. Yeah.
Well, the
Let's-
mafia did that for years with all kinds of sports.
But
Yeah.
let's skip past all this other bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because statistically on paper, they're the best.
Right.
yeah.
And it's never about the size of the fight and the dog. You ever understand? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
always about the size of the dog in the fight.
Right.
And you can't go with that because this country has proven for hundreds of years or 200 and something years or more
Yeah.
that that's never the case. But here's the problem. Now they've had all these years to inundate everybody with a collegiate system
Yeah.
and try to undermine the human will, the human desire to win. And it's funny because you always hear of stories that the underdog is always winning. We always root for the underdog, right?
Right.
Only when the underdog wins, though.
That's true.
You know, and so you sit there and you look at all these news stories, like this whole thing with the president and this attempted coup,
Yeah.
because that's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And so they felt like, and the other side that attacks these guys always makes the fatal mistake of, well, if we control the media and we control the intellectual discussion, truth is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude.
Well, I think they've successfely done that. I think we're fixing
Yeah.
to sticking with the journalistic integrity and all that
Yeah.
stuff. I think we're fixing to get a big release from the Project Veritas group.
Yeah, they are.
So,
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. You were talking about your guys and how these guys felt something for the people that they were with.
Yeah.
But yet felt the need to report the facts as they were. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? As it is what it is.
Because they don't point these people out as a group of people. They're calling their contact is, hey, that's Bob, that's Raheem, that's
Yeah.
Right.
that's how close in proximity
Yeah,
they are.
that to it. So it's interesting that you've got Project Veritas out there now, and they're talking about they've got this new video that they're fixing to release. I don't know when they said they were going to release this. I need to go look it up. It's not released as of right now. I know
No,
that.
not yet. I'm looking for it right now.
Yeah, no, it's not out there. I want to say it was in a week if I read
Mm-hmm.
that thing correctly. And they're going to go in and prove where they got documented footage of CNN explaining how they're politically manipulating using statistics yet again and playing with the truth to get a certain political outcome.
Well,
And
haven't
when
they
you brought
done
the
that
witch hunt
before?
up that we're
yeah,
going
they
through
have.
again.
They've been caught before doing that.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
like, fuck, how many times are you gonna fucking roll this story?
Well, the one that we were talking about at lunch was that ABC story about the Kurds getting attacked by.
Oh yeah.
So what it was every year in Kentucky by a military base
Yeah,
they do
yeah.
that Knob Hill,
Knob Creek shoot, yeah.
Knob Creek shoot, and so they have explosions and tracer fire. So they took that footage and they actually had it on a newscast.
Yeah.
To where because of the withdrawal, the Turks are killing or the Kurds are killing the Syrians or
It's
wherever.
turning into a free for
It's
Yeah.
turned into a free for all, and it was nothing of the sort. And it was
It's
like
just a bunch of rednecks with guns in Kentucky.
it was this. Well, it was military. It was a military show.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, and so there was like explosions and 50 cal and.
I thought it was the Knob Creek where they go
yeah.
and they get
Yeah,
all the,
no,
the
no.
private helps. Okay,
Well,
so
no.
it's
the
just
thing
like a
is, if you
military
show
show.
something like that
Yeah.
where an event is happening in the
Yeah.
dark and you can't see if it was done during the day. There's a bunch of kids around with McDonald's T-shirts on.
Right.
Hey, what
Yeah.
the fuck is this?
Well, they
Right.
got caught red-handed with it. So I mean, and we're seeing more. We're seeing more of these stories. I mean, like the whole, Adam Schiff and all these people. I mean, there's no shame in these people.
None
whatsoever. They feel like because they're on our dime and they have the media in their corner that they're going to sit there and fabricate, and you're just going to follow.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I've never been that way. I don't understand the majority of people that do follow them.
It's interesting. In my head, I always look for the money trail. To me, I think there's got to be a money trail somewhere.
yeah.
So what's their end goal with this? And this is just me thinking out loud in my head, but my guess is campaign contributions double and triple when they get out and can say, "Oh, look, we're going to impeach. We have the evidence. We have the evidence." I think money starts rolling in for them at that point.
So to that point, when you speak about something like this, if it becomes a news story where the news is reporting on, maybe illicit funds coming from some place that it shouldn't have, or contributions that have exceeded an amount, yada yada yada. To me, that's sort of like it's a warning story that before the next voting cycle comes around, we already know what will get us caught. So let's come up with a method that we won't get caught, but yet we can still contribute that same amount of money.
I see what you're
and you
doing.
put it on blast. So that's just conspiratorial.
That's the fun part of this,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Well, they've found a way to squander money to do nothing. I mean, think about, we're going through this deal now where the mayor of Houston spent $95
million?
Yeah,
Wasn't it? Or
yeah,
$95,000. Sorry,
$95,000
$95,000
to bring a dude in,
Yeah.
and they can't explain why. But what's sad about it is tax money. I you read memes all the time, and there was a really good one that said, let's take all the money that the Democrats have spent trying to impeach Trump since he was elected.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you can pay for the wall, pay for health care, and house all the veterans.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, it's billions of dollars.
To your point about the about Sylvester Turner and this intern, is the way he's trying to kind of push it under the rug is by saying that it's only for a year. It's only a year or 18-month internship. So he's trying to say it, like from the news broadcasts and the interviews, is he's trying to make it sound like, hey, we're not going to be paying him. You know, he's not going to make a career here. It's only going to happen for a year to 18 months.
It's his launching point.
And then it'll be somebody else who
gets the $95,000.
I'm like, that's how you're trying to sweep this shit under the rug?
You know who he reminds me of? You remember RoboCop 2? You remember the mayor in
RoboCop
RoboCop 2? I can't remember the guy's name in the movie, but he reminds me of that mayor. If he could just get spurted out into like Buffalo Bayou through a sewer tube, that would be awesome.
That dude is just such a piece of shit.
Well, you know what's really sad about it?
Firefighters love him.
Oh, and don't they though? What's really sad about it is that when he was a city council member years and years, 20 years ago?
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah.
That guy was embroiled in financial fraud and all kinds of investigations, and these younger generations know nothing of that.
They don't care to know. It goes back to what we were talking about. The experts say, it's like their life just started all of a sudden out of nowhere. It's like, does anybody ever look into anybody's past anymore?
Well, with Houston politics, so there used to be a guy named Judon Boney.
Oh yeah.
But Judon Boney came from very humble beginnings.
Right.
I was like, I would trust that dude way more. Than Sylvester Turner. Now, I think Judon Boney at one point was homeless, and then he kind of worked himself up to where he became a pretty recognized city leader.
I didn't know that he was homeless. That's interesting.
I seem to remember something about this homeless.
Maybe lived in
aspect.
his car or something like that.
Something, but I mean, the guy, he lived in his fucking neighborhood. He didn't. He was over in like, I want to say he was 5th Ward, 5th or 3rd Ward. He's not somebody who represents a ward but lives in fucking River Oaks.
Right on. So, I gotcha.
It's funny because it's still at the end of the day. I mean, you go back in the old days where Congress was, and all our representatives were employees. They all worked for other. They had their own businesses, and they would travel to Washington, get a per diem for doing their job, and then go back to their job.
That was it. That's all they collected.
And that's what's created the big problem we have now is the career politician strives to stay in office. What's that saying is all the politicians worry about is getting reelected.
Right.
And so they generate a lot of money for other people to get them money for doing nothing. It's really sad because if you look at the contribution made by the civil employee, it's very nil.
Yeah.
Because they have so many rules and regulations regarding measuring performance and termination. They're like Samsonite luggage. Once you buy them, you ain't getting rid of them. You ain't
getting rid of it.
And if you do, it's going to cost you a lot of money to replace it. And that's shame on us for letting that happen, because they'll replace any of us.
Oh, at the drop of a hat.
At the drop of a hat, because
it's happened to me many times.
Same here. Right to work. It's a right to work thing.
Yeah.
It's like, look, this kind of corruption creeps into our system, and so we start getting shit like we're seeing now.
Yeah.
The fake news. I mean, the other day it just blew my mind where they showed the clip of the girl at the AOC rally, or where they were talking about eating babies.
Yeah, she was trolling trolling AOC.
Trolling AOC. But it's funny. The fact that somebody would sit there in public and even act like it's a serious subject to eat babies so that we can kill off future generations so that we don't damage the earth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who's going to occupy the earth if we kill everybody moving forward?
But the interesting part was nobody in the audience challenged that woman on that. They all said back. Yeah. Well, that was the best. That was the biggest takeaway from that, was watching everybody not say anything.
If you look at the video, as you had several people when she said it, suddenly they
it was like a light bulb went on.
They turned their phones on and wanted to record this chick. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Well, so it turned into one of these like viral moments.
And that's a good point, because it's funny because we talk about social media and its effects. I mean, look at the phone. I mean, how somebody can bully somebody on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of bullying that happens. Because we were talking about when we were kids, if you had a problem with a kid in the neighborhood, you just kicked his ass and it was in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays, you have a problem with a kid, you turn 1 million other people against this kid.
Yeah.
That
makes it a little bit harder.
Makes it a little harder for. Well, it is if you're that kind of guy. Personally, I can give a fuck.
Yeah, that's my solution. I don't give a shit.
I can tell you with the chick talking about babies, what should have happened is a Homie the Clown type character should have stood up on
I don't think
slapped
so.
him with slapped him with a sock. Shut up.
Yeah, it's funny.
Homie, don't play that.
Homie, don't play that.
Yeah, you just have to accept the fact that you're going to have people filling the stage. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Well, like I said, my takeaway was, and then AOC, for her not to come in and say anything like,
right.
The simple thing to do would be say, hey, look, you're obviously nuts. Why don't you sit down?
Right.
Nobody would do that. I was stunned by the fact that they just let her go, and then they said, well, that sounds like one of many solutions that we need to look at.
But if you think about it, there's it's sort of a passive kind of group anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like we didn't stop them because
they're passive among each other.
We might hurt their feelings. So we're not going to stop you from speaking your mind.
That's just like this whole NBA thing.
Yeah.
So the whole Chinese, because apparently the owner or GM or the general manager of the Houston Rockets,
Daryl Morey,
did something that offended the Chinese.
Well, he basically condemned the Chinese attacking the folks in Hong Kong.
Well, they took the Hong Kong app down where they can share where police.
Apple did that. Yeah. Apple took the Hong Kong app off where they can share locations. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, where they can hold protests. So Apple got rid of that.
Well, because NBA kind of got involved in that whole blow up too.
Well, if you think about it, so you have multi-million-dollar athletes.
Oh, I mean,
that all endorse shoe deals.
Yeah,
and where are all those shoes made?
China
is
here, Mr. Burton.
Yeah, it's funny because
the NBA said we don't want to be sponsored by kids.
Exactly.
This shit.
It's hard to dunk in some New Balance shoes and just can't dunk.
Well, it's so now what's happened is you see the counterculture to that, to where now the NBA has all of a sudden become the moral authority on anything that platform wants to push.
Right.
But it's a corporate voice.
It's all corporatized. We talk about the whole corporate machine and a lot of times, and from firsthand experience, you sit back and they feel they have influence because they know that if you as an employee speak out,
yeah, they're just going to drop the hammer on
they're going to drop the hammer
on look what they did to that guy in the NBA. They told him, shut up.
Yeah. Everybody has some clause in their contract that they can loosely say, because you said something, it addresses this clause. You're in violation, or you have to pay a fine, or
But what's funny is the morals. So you don't have what's called morals clause anymore.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, so you don't have. They used to have moral clause.
Okay.
In a lot of these things, so like if you were sexually harassing anybody you worked with, a lot of them even had nepotism clauses.
Okay.
To where you couldn't have relatives working in the same company.
Right.
And now you see a lot of these corporations that their daddies built, that they put their kids in charge of it. And then it just turns into just a whole fiasco.
I worked for one of those.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of them out there. I work for one too, and I will tell you, the son is just a speck of just a pimple on his daddy's ass of how that company is run.
Generally, that's how that works.
You can't have a morals clause these days with social media because
you got to have morals.
It's like but it's like you can't violate the morals clause and post pictures from Moonlight Bunny Ranch. Okay,
right.
If you really haven't thought about it, they kind of conflict, man.
Yeah,
okay?
And that's what's funny about social media is the people that are compelled, the moments they're compelled to use it.
Right.
Just like this girl here in Houston that took a job with a company, and she was at the swimming pool during the weekend, and she had one of these bikinis on that showed the underbelly of her both of her boobs. Under boobs. Yeah, and they fired her.
Really?
Yeah, they fired her.
I know who this. Because this is the lady who went on freaking social media and shamed a job applicant.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
And it's funny how that works, but what I think is even funnier is that, so I'm just going to go here, let's just see where this goes. So you have a proposed red flag laws.
Right on.
Okay, and it's all focused towards firearms owners, okay?
Yeah.
So they want to put in the books to where red flag means if an employee, a family member, anybody under the rainbow on this planet feels threatened by you and your presence,
Yeah.
Right.
and you have a firearm, they feel like they have the right to say, well, then you can't have that because this guy's afraid of you.
Yeah.
How many places have you been where you don't even know anybody? And then you find out later the guy always was afraid of you. And it's like, for what reason?
Yeah,
Well, you
what
just
did I
have
do?
You have a skull on your face. Well, no, that's just how I look.
Right.
You know? So you have this huge gap of just stupidity taking place.
Yeah.
Triggers have taken such large latitudes.
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
Anything.
They have. Until you work in a company where you have something against a guy that you work for. Say, for example, well, he doesn't ever explain anything to me. He's mean. Well, okay. What do you do there? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big issue in places. So what ends up happening is the inmates do run the prison at that point.
Yeah, they do.
They really do. And so you have this vicious cycle now of people turned against people. They're not going to take positions.
Right.
They're not going to apply discipline. How do you coach?
Yeah.
How do you coach an employee now? How do you coach anybody?
It's like helicopter parenting to the next level of
Right.
this organic. Everything's just going to have to coexist organically. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
'cause
There's no real rules here.
None.
It's just how you feel, man.
But how many people have you run around and thought that guy's a dick until you got to know him?
Yeah, that's
oh, he
true.
just looks that way. It's just the way he dresses, or that's just I mean, you find out. Oh, I didn't get to know this guy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm going with this. It's like they've got everybody basically cordoned off into different groups.
Yeah.
And they want to hate on every other group. And I just think it's one of those things you look at it and you go, why are we here? Why are we doing it this way? When we used to be able to just kind of get along freely.
My viewpoint is I'm not a dick. You're just fucking soft, man.
Right? Right.
I was going to say, Grandma's one of those guys I got to know and went, wow, he's a dick, but I still like him. I guess he's all right. I'll hang out with him.
But he's a funny dick.
He is. He's
Yeah.
my kind of dick.
I know. It's well, you're not my kind
No
of
homo-
dick. I'll just
no
say that
homo.
right now. Yeah. It's just, yeah, you keep your dick over there.
Shit.
No, it is, though. It's just like people just need to lighten up. I mean,
Yeah.
gee, even Christmas. Everything is so, I mean, everybody's
But we're not
holding
doing
up-
anything to do that. You say,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? We say
Yeah.
lighten up, but
Yeah.
there's nothing pushing that way. There's no.
No,
It's going the opposite direction of that.
Right.
So how do you get people to lighten up?
Well,
I
you're
mean,
forced to make a choice, and a lot of times you don't really want to be in the camp you're chosen.
Yeah.
You're forced into.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's when that's a good point to become a good time to become a serial killer.
Oh no!
Wow.
Well,
So you're announcing your candidacy here on this
Yeah.
show, Graham?
yeah, the
Maybe not.
yeah, the
I'm running for
broadcasters.
Houston serial
Yeah,
killer. Vote for me.
The broadcasters of this show neither endorse or support those thoughts.
I'm working on my method.
There you go. That shit's funny.
Oh man.
Well, it's I don't know. It's just coming down to the ridiculous. It really is.
Yeah.
Everything's turned into the surreal life, Jersey Shore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every one of these worst nightmare train crash shows that have been pumped up front of the youth of this country.
Well, and then it goes further and further to the youth. I was listening to a deal this morning talking about Canada, where it's soon going to be basically when you have kids that you're basically just a babysitter.
Yeah,
you're a
not the-
glorified babysitter.
You're not the parent.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The state basically is going to tell you what
Yeah.
you can and can't do.
So somebody read Clinton's book. Is that
Yeah.
what-
Apparently, the
Yeah.
village is in effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was talking about in Canada where they have all these laws now that the state can teach your kids whatever they want to teach them about sexuality. You have no say in it, and it's considered actual child abuse to actually teach these kids
Yeah.
something other than what the state-sponsored curriculum is. No BS.
Oh no, no.
So it's the same
Yeah.
as beating your kid with a tire. I can either beat my kid with a tire iron or say that I don't think that there are 56 genders. You know what I
True,
mean? That's
true.
equal. Somehow that's equal in this world of Canada, and they're saying that it's coming here. I know California is looking at some laws and trying to get some courses passed that says the parents really can't go against what you can't opt out of them. Basically,
Ooh.
yeah.
See,
there is no opt out.
I would actually expect more of a people to start fleeing
Canada and California.
Canada and California.
You're right.
What you expected? It's already happening.
Well,
Yeah.
no,
They are
but-
flooding this state like fucking crazy over here.
But
they're
when
going to kill
when
this
you
state.
start
Yeah.
piling on the reasons why somebody needs to start packing their bags.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come.
Well, when you have 50% of the world's, 50% of the United States homeless population, that says a lot about your state right there.
It does, and and it's also the state with some of the richest people in the country.
Yeah.
That live behind gates in these opulent neighborhoods. And speaking of California, I don't know if you'll remember me sending this to you guys, but California officials declare ham radio no longer a benefit.
Oh, wow.
Demands that ham radio repeater infrastructures be taken down and removed.
in California.
Yeah, in California.
Well, we
So
can't
all
get
I
information
just
out.
heard is we want to cut down a means of communication.
Yeah.
That's all I
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
exactly what
yeah,
that
let's
is.
destroy the infrastructure so that y'all can't talk to each other. That should scare the living shit
It's
out of you.
one less way of somebody yelling Wolverine.
Exactly. Well, so if some of you the Democratic Socialists out there want to know how this is going to go, take a good look, because there's your model. I mean, California is a fine model and a fine example of how democratic socialism actually works.
Sure. Well, here's the interesting thing. In 2012, the federal government launched FirstNet, a public safety nationwide broadband network that many in the government will think will make ham operators obsolete.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a government-sponsored
All I just heard was Skynet.
Skynet. Yeah, exactly.
That's all I heard.
Yeah, and it's really sad because
This is going to upset our buddy Don, I
Oh,
won't say his last
yeah,
name,
yeah,
because he's
yeah.
huge into that.
Yes.
That guy
Yeah.
has like 6 ham radios and stuff. man.
really.
Yeah, he has a
Oh.
lot. He has a bunch of old school
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah, he
and,
loves
Well, it's fun
fucking
when
radio
we used to
stuff.
play with them when we were kids, and we would talk to people all around the world.
yeah.
And we used to listen to some of the funniest stuff on there too. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some crazy shit.
Don
in there.
kind of started getting me into that
Yeah,
before he
really?
moved away. Yeah, I'd go over there and listen. It
Well,
was
the
interesting.
handheld stuff is really powerful now.
Yeah.
You can get some really good handheld portable units that do pretty good with that. But yeah, so that's another thing that they're trying to take away from.
It's more freedom. Just
Yeah.
think of it as more freedom that you no longer have for
Yeah.
no other reason other than we want to control it.
and it's sad because now, what was the other one? I'm just rolling through here while we're talking, so kind of fill some dead air for me here while I
Yeah.
look at this.
Oh,
Because I'm looking at you had put something up here about SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, in New York,
Yeah.
yeah, they had a big float. What was that? The heading of it shows this big float of SpongeBob, and he's floating
Right.
over the city.
Right.
And some college professor in Chicago claimed that he was a symbol of white supremacy
I did see
and
something.
Yeah.
hate. And it was a big floating structure of SpongeBob.
Yeah, he turned 20 on. Apparently, he turned 20 this year.
Oh, wow.
SpongeBob did. I didn't realize it'd been that.
So does that mean he reached the age of where you can actually insult him? now?
Yes, exactly. That's funny.
And I don't. The thing is, like, how some of these professors kind of extrapolate this information to come up with these crazy fucking comments.
How do you develop this theory? You know what I mean?
It's a cartoon. God damn it!
Yeah.
So here's what's funny, and I'm reading the story as we're talking. It basically, this guy's asserting that SpongeBob has colonized Bikini Bottom, the underwater
Has
home.
colonized.
Yeah, to the underwater home to the lovable character, and claims the cartoon is a whitewashing and the violent American military activities against natives on the Pacific Islands, specifically the Bikini Atoll Islands on the Marshall Island that was used for nuclear testing.
Right on. See, I want to know
Yeah.
where that dude gets his weed.
So this,
I'm telling you, that's some strong
so
shit.
this guy is like the. He wants to be like the Upton Sinclair.
Yeah.
Of the 21st century.
He's calling this nautical nonsense.
just like you read into fucking the Wizard of Oz, and you weave this fanciful narrative that the certain characters of Wizard of Oz represented communism and big industry. And
that
stuff
was
like
out there. That really was out
know,
there.
I
Yeah,
know.
that was crazy.
But the thing is it was only out there for people that wanted to read more into it than
Right.
what it was. And
Sure.
I certainly don't want to give that much credit to an author who comes up with a fucking story that writes this kind of a
So
story.
we're going about it all wrong. It's rather than doing podcasts, this is like an idea that can make us hundreds, possibly maybe even $1,000. We need to have like a think tank that just comes up with ideas like this and just churns them out. You know what I mean? And
Right.
all we need is one good hit to where we get like 1 million views,
Right.
and we could like maybe go to dinner or something on the money.
I tell you what, if we got funding that fed us one meal a month,
Yeah,
I think I'd
it's
pretty
totally
confident.
worth it. I think this
I'd be
thing,
pretty
this
fucking
think tank
happy
could
with
go
that.
somewhere.
So we're coming up to the closing, and one of the things I want to ask you guys: peanut butter and jelly sandwiches,
Those are racist.
are they racist, and why? Go.
I think the premise was that only poor kids ate peanut butter and jelly, so that's what made it racist. And it was a group separation thing. I think it's absolutely foolishness. Personally, I still eat PB&J. I love
I
it.
love
I
it.
fucking love PB&J.
Yeah. Now I would think that a
Sig
sugar,
Heil.
yeah, I would think a sugar in bread sandwich would be racist.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But my brother used to eat those like crazy. Instead of
what?
sugar, he would take white bread and just pour white sugar on it
Now,
and eat that.
That
I'm like,
explains where diabetes came
God.
from.
well, now,
money.
what we did is
Yeah.
we would butter toast and
Yeah.
then sprinkle sugar on top of that.
Oh, we did brown sugar.
Brown sugar.
Yeah,
I've
we did
done-
brown
done
sugar and
either
toast.
way. And honey.
Oh yeah.
I was like, fuck, man, that's how we freaking did things as kids.
Well, there you go. That's our show for.